Yes, guys, everything bite-sized here. So I'm scared already because this is going to be a really long video. I haven't read it yet, the article from dummies.com, but I've scrolled down to see how long it is, and it is going to be long because not only is it going to be long reading it, I add my own anecdotes and my own thoughts. So we're going to crack on anyway. It's called 10 Super Stressful Jobs. I'm going to have to take breaks to breathe and vape and drink some coffee. Let me just have a vape now. A pre-read vape. Okay, 1 second, because we're really gonna be diving into it here. It just looks so interesting, this article, 10 super stressful jobs, and I feel like I've done videos recently on stress and stoicism and stuff like that. I'm doing a lot of psychology and emotional type videos, you know, a lot of my past videos are going to relate to this, and there'll probably be some cross reference, but let's crack straight on, yeah? Some types of jobs trigger more stress than others. What follows is a list of 10 jobs or work settings that are judged to be some of the most stressful. These particular jobs were chosen because of the degree of dangers and hazards involved, the demands of the job, the amount of control the person has over what he or she does, the levels of responsibility required, and the number of hours worked. Your own job may not be on the list, but as you go through the list, try to determine which of the stresses these other jobs face can also be found in your job. So so even if your job's not in this list, there's probably like a crossover of you know, like stressors. The first one, so I'll have a little break after every one we talk about out of each of the 10. The first one of the most stressful jobs is corporate executives. Executives have to contend with other corporate executives, employees, the public, and board members. Yeah, I bet it's well stressful talking to board members because ultimately they're your bosses. So like, even if you're like a CEO, you've got to answer to your board members because they're the ones who are like funding you know, like they're the ones who hold all the stock. So yeah, no, I really wouldn't want to have a board meeting. And they're only as good as the last quarter's revenue. Yeah, that's what's scary. When the economy tanks, they sweat. The hours can be long and the weekends fill with networking and making contacts. Often a lot of traveling is required, which means time away from family and friends. Job security is uncertain. I kind of imagine being a corporate executive as being like, oh, I nearly cussed then, I'm trying not to cuss in my videos, being like Patrick Bateman off of American Psycho. Like, that's how I see, like, every time I think of a corporate executive, a CEO or whatever, yeah, like I think of Patrick Bateman. But that, I feel like that's probably an unfair representation. Not all of them are psychopaths, but there's a higher concentration of psychopaths in that high corporate field. So what is it? Let me check. I think it's 4 to 5% of CEOs are psychopaths, whereas in the general population it's 1%. Let me just check that. So let's just check that to make sure I'm not chatting nonsense. Oh, my internet is being really slow. Okay, no, we'll crack on. Just take my word for it. 4 to 5% of the oh, it's loading now. 4 to 5% of the population. Okay, so 1% of the general population are psychopaths, and I'm gonna search CEOs. I think it's 4 to 5%, which shows you how inhumane a lot of big companies out there are, because some of the decisions that I can't find the oh wait, what, this article saying 21% of CEOs in corporate America are psychopaths. What? Do you know what? Yeah, and this other one is saying 1 in 5 business leaders are psychopaths. Well, it's worse than I thought, man. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That does, man. Like, because like they've got to make some really like life or death situations, sort of like you know, like judgments that can really negatively impact and even kill people around the world. So yeah, no, that makes sense, man. So yeah, maybe they all are like Patrick Bateman, or 20% of them are. Right. So the next stressful job, and this really does make sense, deployed military personnel. Being on the front lines, facing the stress of war and combat, can result in incredible levels of stress. Oh my gosh, I bet like the fight or flight in combat is just intense. The physical and psychological demands of training and duty, yeah, the training would be enough as it is. Dangers of war, stress of relocation, and difficulties transitioning into a civilian job only add to the stress. Separation from family can be a major stressor. Also, the pay is relatively low. Those of higher military rank face the stresses of decision making and responsibility. You are responsible for the lives under you. Oh, I'm going to go through that again because that is so deep. I didn't realize how many different ways there were to stress being in the military. So it says, obviously the physical demands of training and also combat, that's enough to stress you out. The relocation, moving around the world for different deployments, that would definitely stress you out. And then coming into a civilian job afterwards, that would be stressful. And separation from family, that would be hugely stressful, especially when you've got a wife and you're wondering whether she's cheating on you or some shit like that. Just cussed, I'm gonna have to cut that out. And yeah, the pay is relatively low. Yeah, I think it's criminal how low soldiers on the front line are paid, or soldiers in general. I'm not going to get into like the efficacy of what wars we fight and stuff like that, but soldiers have been a constant throughout history, and there's honor and valor in being a soldier, whatever war you're fighting, and I feel like people have to recognize that. They're putting themselves at risk to in their eyes protect something or someone. Even if the war they're fighting is phony and bogus, they're going in 9 times out of 10 or more with the thought of, I'm serving people or a country. I know there's people who go in the army just to kill people, that's true, and those people I don't respect, but the ones who think they're serving the country, I really do. Right, so the next job, let me have a vape and a bit of coffee quickly. Look, this is interesting already. I'm really enjoying this. So the next high stress job, this is going to be a really long video like I thought. The next high stress job is inner city high school teachers. Yes, I bet that is super stressful, man. Urban areas, like where kids have grown up in really hard. I was in a school like in a bad town, and the worst school in the bad town, and the just cussed again. The shit that teachers had to put up with from students was insane. I couldn't have done it. One teacher actually had a nervous breakdown, and everyone started calling her pigeon because she got this nervous tick where she moved her head like a pigeon. Like, that shows you how stressful these jobs can be. So while this job is not without its physical dangers, it is. There are physical dangers of being a teacher, at least where I'm from. While the job is not without its physical dangers, I know teachers who have had chairs thrown at them, man. Come on. Like, the major source of stress comes from other places. Teachers must manage classroom behaviour. Yep, I bet that is super stressful, and motivate students to become more interested in learning and work harder on their studies. Sometimes they have to work just to get them to show that up to class. Everybody thinks that teachers have it easy. They don't have it easy. That's one of the hardest jobs in the world, man. No, not everybody thinks that. Teaching has definitely got to be one of the hardest jobs in the world, for sure. And they get really low pay, you know. So I'll carry on anyway. Everybody thinks that teachers have it easy, going home at 3:30. Not so. Like, even if they go home sooner, they're taking their work home with them, man. There are lessons to be prepared. Yep. Papers to grade. Yep. Reports to be handed in. Oh, right, yeah, of course. I didn't think of that they'd have to write reports and that, and themselves, you know. Then there are the politics of the school, with grade and performance expectations, often felt by teachers to be at the expense of other subject learning. Okay. Coping with the demands, complaints, and often the lack of involvement of parents, presents additional stressors. Yeah, dealing with parents as a teacher, I think, would be really stressful, because you might have a kid who's really misbehaving, but the parents like don't care and don't do anything about it, and I'll get other teachers that come in complaining about stuff that's maybe not even true. But yeah, let me have a vape. This other one's going to be really interesting. Right, so this other one is journalists and reporters. I reckon this is a really stressful job, especially war journalists. I don't know what you call them, war reporters or war journalists. Combat journalists? I don't know. Perhaps the major sources of stress for many who work in these jobs are the constant unpredictable demands of the job and the relative lack of control the reporter has about what to write about. Yeah, dealing with an editor, that must be so stressful. You might have the best idea for an article, and the owner or the like the CEO or whatever doesn't want you to write that article, and you may have already started working on it. And an editor, you could write an article and an editor takes out your favorite part or something like that, or changes your article so much that you don't even feel like it's yours anymore. I can imagine that being really stressful. Okay, so the hours can be long and stretch into weekends. Well, you'd take the work home with you, wouldn't you? I think the work would never stop if you were a journalist, because you'd constantly be thinking about your stories. Anyway, deadlines are always looming. There is pressure to get it right the first time with little room for error. More recently, newer stresses have been added. The print media is in decline with more papers and magazines folding. Jobs are harder to come by, and if you have a job, you're probably doing your job plus the work of one or two others. Oh, interesting. Yeah, everything's going online, isn't it? Like eventually, I reckon like print media will just disappear. It will just die. I'm surprised it's still going, to be honest with you. And I bet there's a lot of people in jobs that, like it's saying, are like getting stressed out at the idea of being replaced by the internet. Oh no, it's not funny. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, so another vape. I'm sorry. Right. This stressful job is medical interns. Are interns like new doctors and nurses that are learning? I believe I might just be being dense, and that's really obvious, but I think that's what it is. New doctors and new nurses. Okay, so if I read it, it'll probably be obvious, but I like going through the article, like organically and doing it in one take. Right, so that transition period between graduating from medical school and being able to practice medicine can be incredibly stressful. Oh, so it's not the learning. It is learning, but you do most of the learning in medical school, and then being an intern is the transition of putting it into practicality and like learning on the job to then become a nurse or a doctor. Okay, I got it now. I got it, lads and lasses. Let's move on. So that transition period between graduating from medical school and being able to practice medicine can be incredibly stressful. It starts with a heavy workload, parentheses, and a great deal of sleep deprivation and a higher level of responsibility. Patients can be difficult and taxing. Yeah, I bet. The newly minted doc may have relocated for his or her internship from another state or city. The newly minted doc may have relocated for his or her internship from another state or city. Oh, I guess they're saying it's stressful because you might have to move to a new place to get a job somewhere. Okay. So the next stressful job, and I can really see this already, is being a miner. So I'd be so claustrophobic and scared of the mine collapsing, no matter how much safety measures are in place. I would be so stressed. Working underground certainly would seem to be stressful. The thought of descending into the bowels of the earth with little air, little light, and the fear of a collapsing mine would not be a career on the top of most people's list. Yeah, no wonder they're either paid really well or they strike. You hear of so many miner strikes because they should be getting danger pay, and even if the mine is safe and not dangerous, and you can basically guarantee that, say Elon Musk built it or some shit. I just cussed again. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to cut a lot out of this video. Yeah, even if the mine is safe, I get really claustrophobic. Anyway, besides the danger of being killed or trapped, many spending many hours in a cramped, poorly lit environment with no sun or fresh air adds to the stress. There are also the health risks that come in with breathing in particle dust and fumes over the course of many years. They used to have this thing called coal lung, didn't they, where people had breathed in too much coal dust and it killed them. The next stressful job, and I can imagine this being stressful too, is being a pilot. And those that help them land, it says. Oh, I'm guessing those are the guys with the glowy sticks that do all the dancing and prancing around. Pilots, of course, are responsible for the lives of their passengers. Pilots and crew spend a lot of time away from home. The air traffic controllers, the people who are responsible for helping the pilot land the plane, may feel even more stress. Perhaps no other job has been as readily identified as the poster job for stress. Sorry, let me say it again. Perhaps no other job has been as readily identified as the poster job for stress. Right, got ya. Both of these groups are responsible for thousands of lives. People expect to arrive at their destination safely and as quickly as possible. The demands of these jobs are high. There is very little room for error and not a whole lot of downtime. One upside would be like you get to travel the world, and but anyway, the work is usually done in shifts with the schedule changing all the time. You work lots of holidays, putting additional stress on your family life. Yeah, I can see that. And the sleep deprivation and the jet lag would be really stressful, I imagine. And and even though, like I said, they get to see the world, it would get stressful eventually, like going around all the time from here to there to here to there. Yeah, and the jet lag and the stress. Yeah, and then, like it said, like being responsible for people's lives. Yeah, no, definitely. And this one is police officers and firefighters. Oh, that must be like one of the most stressful jobs in the world. Yeah, no, definitely. The stuff both of them have to deal with, like the people police officers have to deal with, and the extremity of situations firefighters have to deal with, and also firefighters have to deal with dead bodies and stuff like that, and and some of them could be children, and it must be traumatic, and same with police officers. They have to deal with stuff like that, and domestic abuse and general violence, and so police officers are responsible for the safety of the public, their colleagues and themselves. The work of a firefighter often puts him or her in a direct line of danger. Physically, the work is fatiguing. The hours can be long and erratic. That's interesting because, being a firefighter, you've got all this gear strapped to you. You've got oxygen tank on your back. You've got fireproof clothing. That must be really fatiguing. And then the stress as well on top of it. Also, firefighters have to be on call all the time. So that would be really stressful. And with the whole fatiguing thing, being a police officer, the stress would fatigue you, but also carrying around all that gear. They've constantly got all of that gear on them, and they have to run in that gear sometimes. Anyway. For firefighters, there can be long periods of boredom and inactivity. The nature of the work can also take its toll on family life. Yeah, I bet while firefighters are waiting for a job, they're probably having a really good time. I imagine, I could be wrong, but they're probably sitting there with a nice setup, having a really good time. And then suddenly, boom, ding, 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 they've got to get up straight away, chuck all their gear on, and go and face an incredibly intense situation. So even though a lot of the time they're sitting there, they're getting paid still doing work because they're on call. I think they should get paid really well, even if they're only working a few hours a week, cutting people out of cars or dealing with fires. The work is so intense that them sitting there getting paid, I don't have a problem with that. And firefighters strike a lot as well in the UK because they don't get enough pay. Alright, so the next one I can relate to fully, restaurant servers. So even though I didn't deal with customers, whenever I worked at KFC, I worked at 2 different KFCs, I was always the guy in the back making the chicken and the burgers and stuff like that, and that was stressful, like because you've got to cook a certain amount of chicken in time, and it gets nuts. And then when you're on the burger station, you've got, or the fry station, you've got to make as much fries as you can as quickly as possible. And on the burger station, you get orders come through that like ding ding ding, order, and you've got to throw these burgers together, and it's stressful, man. And I imagine it's stressful for the people who don't handle the food, the people who are working on the till. I've never worked on the till or the counter or whatever you guys, the Americans, call it, but yeah, they get stressful. They've got a stressful job as well, because they're dealing with customers who, one, probably look down on them because they're working in fast food. Two, can be really demanding and you know, like horrible to the staff. And you know, three, there's also the social anxiety part. And when I used to work on a bar, I did have to serve people, and I hated being on display and on show all the time. It felt like I was on a stage constantly. But at least with working on a bar, when someone got too drunk and was an idiot, I could threaten them and say, look, I'm not going to serve you anymore unless you chill out and sort yourself out. And then if someone gets aggressive or leery, I can just tell them to F off. And I won't lose my job over like treating them like that. But anyway, so yeah, being a restaurant server, I told you this video was going to take ages because of me talking loads. The hours can be long and the shifts inconvenient. Oh, that's so true. You know, on the bar or in KFC, my shifts were always changing. I'd go from a late shift to suddenly an early shift and not get any sleep, and oh man, I hated it. So yeah, the hours can be long and the shifts inconvenient. I'd say the shifts can be inconsistent. That's another word to add. So yeah, you're on your feet for many hours. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh man, I used to ache so much at the end of shifts and my feet, that, oh man, you are juggling orders. Yeah, like I was saying, the rewards are few. Yeah, it's minimum wage. The average income is around $20,000. I'm guessing that's not a lot in the US. Your job security is not great either. Make some mistakes and you may find yourself replaced. Oh yeah, because you can easily replace people in those jobs. The job is not often held in high esteem in society. Exactly. And do you know what? That really annoys me, because it's one of the hardest jobs I've done a lot of different jobs. Because of my bipolar, I usually only last 3 to 6 months in a job before I have a major meltdown. So I've done loads of different jobs. And being a restaurant server, not a server, but you know, like a restaurant worker, that was really stressful. Let me have a quick break. This has been interesting. The next one is taxi drivers. Yeah, my dad told me a story, a few stories about being a taxi driver, because I wanted to be a taxi driver, and he strongly recommended I didn't. One story was a guy was arguing with his girlfriend in the back, and he punched her or something like that. Yeah, so my dad got involved, and then suddenly the bird who got punched started attacking my dad. So he told me, like, don't ever get involved in domestic issues. And also he's from a really dodgy area, like more dodgy than where I'm from. And someone pulled out a knife on him once to try and rob him. Yeah, so I imagine it is really stressful being a taxi driver. It says undesirable hours, low pay, and danger. Oh yeah, danger. So yeah, no, it's a common thing, the danger, I suppose. Contribute to the stress of this career choice. Crime is a major concern, especially in inner cities. Passengers can be a pain in the neck. Oh yeah, and also there's people who, my dad said, throw up because they're so drunk in the car. I imagine they've been drinking all night, and then the motion of driving makes, oh yeah, no, horrible. The traffic can be horrendous. Drivers pretty much just sit in their cars for many grueling hours without any physical exercise. The pay is generally low, with a median salary of around $25,000. That's the last one. Yeah, so I've also worked removals, and that was physically stressful and mentally stressful. So I don't know what you call it in the US, but it's when you help people move house and you pack up all their stuff for them and carry, you know, like there's a lot of like physicality in it, and it's very stressful. But anyway, this has been everything bite size. Check out my other videos like this, check out my music, check out my shorts, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.